Hello, welcome back. Thank you for joining me. Thank you for those of you who joined me on Monday for our original and first What's the Best Diet for My Dog live webinar, live launch workshop. So welcome to part 2. I'm excited to continue the launch workshops. So today I'm going to speak about transitioning dog food. I have a few questions to answer, but I will just start again by introducing myself and Rewarding Pet Nutrition and just recapping quickly about what we covered on Monday. So yeah, thank you again for joining me. Thank you for watching. And many of the dog owners, pet parents that I speak to, they find that they get very muddled. They're confused about what is the best diet for their dog, how do they find it, and why is information conflicting, and how do they know? So that's where we come in. So are you not sure what diet is best for your dog? Are you not sure what food will suit them best? Are you feeling stressed and overwhelmed by the information available without knowing which of that information is correct? That's where I can help. So we all want our dogs to be healthy and happy. That's the goal. And that's what I want to help you with. So I am Laura. I'm the owner and pet nutritionist behind Rewarding Pet Nutrition. I'm a professional pet nutritionist, and I specialize in supporting dog owners with understanding their dog's nutrition. I studied a bachelor's degree of animal science with an accreditation in nutrition, and since then I've worked in dog nutrition for 8 years now. I've worked in pet food manufacture, supporting pet food brands with creating new foods and helping to provide nutritional support for many existing pet foods to ensure the nutrition and the quality of those foods is as good as it possibly can be. I then worked as a formulator with vitamin and mineral ingredients, and these are the ingredients which go into premixes for pet foods to ensure that they are complete and balanced. I also worked with vitamins and minerals for other animals, but throughout this, I've been supporting dog owners to understand their dog's nutrition and solving their individual pet problems, from overweight dogs and dogs with allergies to underweight dogs which maybe aren't able to digest the nutrients from their food well, to creating food plans for individuals, for puppies. There's a huge range really. But Rewarding Pet Nutrition is here to make pet nutrition fun and simple for everybody. That is the key. We're here to demystify dog food, to remove the stress, the overwhelm, the embarrassment, the helplessness that many pet owners feel about their dog's health and nutrition. Maybe you do too. I'm here to support you every step of the way, celebrating your wins, providing you with expert direction throughout. So again, it's fantastic that you're here. Thank you very much for joining me. You're taking a step towards demystifying your dog's food and nutrition, and a step closer to your healthy dogs and happy humans, like I like to say. So today I want to continue the celebration of What's the Best Diet for My Dog live webinar launch by sharing how to transition your dog to a new food. I'll cover some troubleshooting points which you might get during a transition as well. So to kick off with this, You may have noticed that on many dog food packagings and labels, there will be a sentence somewhere around the feeding guide area which says that the food should be introduced gradually. So the length of time for which the transition is recommended can vary, but usually the brands recommend anything from a few days to 2 weeks. The longer the transition time, the less likely you are to see any signs of upset tummies and digestive discomfort in your dog. And the reason that transitioning gradually to new foods is important is to allow your dog's microbiome, which is the population of good bacteria which live in their gut, to adjust to the new food. If there is a straight switch from one food to the new food, then this has the potential to cause digestive upset. So that's diarrhea, constipation, sickness, a number of these things. Your dog could even get gastritis, which is like the inflammation of their gut, which often can require some veterinary intervention or like a bland or digestive recovery diet in order to settle that down again. If your dog does have a direct switch to a new food, then a digestive upset, you'll probably find that switching back to their old food afterwards settles their digestion and you don't get these problems. And this is because that old food is what their microbiome, those good bacteria, are accustomed to. So imagine your dog's daily food portion, whether you feed dry food, wet food, raw food, or a different format, really doesn't matter. Just imagine their daily food on a plate or within a circle, and imagine that is divided into the number of days which you've chosen to transition over. So let's say for this example that will be 10 days. So we're imagining that plate or that circle divided into 10. So a good way to picture this could be to think about a cake or a pizza, which is cut into 10 slices. Then each day that we are conducting this transition will be one of those slices, one of those dividers. And each day you will, for this 10% example, this 10-day example, each day will be increasing the new food by 10% and reducing the old food by 10%. So in that first divider, that first slice of cake, there will be 90% of the old food, 10% of the new food. And then we continue that 10% rule each day. So on day 5, you would be feeding 50% of the old food, 50% of the new food. And by day 10, you'll have completely switched to the new food. Essentially, the more different the food, the longer the time to transition should be. So for instance, if you have just chosen a different variety of food from the same range, and much of the recipe and the nutritional analysis of the food is similar, less time is required for the microbiome to adjust to this new recipe. So in comparison, if the food that you're changing to is very different, so if you're changing, say, from a low protein, high carbohydrate food to a high protein, low carbohydrate food, or if you're changing the food format, such as dry food to wet food, or you're switching to raw food, then a longer transition is needed. And you might even need longer than 2 weeks to transition. And it just means that you're giving the microbiome and those good bacteria the best chance to adjust to the new food so that your dog can continue to digest it well, to take that nutrition from the food into their body and avoid the upset and the discomfort of having upset tummies, which it's not nice for them, and it's not nice for us to see them uncomfortable either. So let's have a think about troubleshooting. So in terms of the troubleshooting, there are just a few issues which you could come across, which I will just chat through. So let's say partway through the transition, your dog gets digestive upset. Even though the transition was gradual, you've been doing, say, over 10 days or 2 weeks, and you're making those small increments of change to the proportions of the food each day, they still have a digestive upset. So some dogs are more sensitive than others, and changing their food can upset their tummies. So if this happens, what I would say is that you move back a step. So for example, using that 10-day transition as that we used as an example just now, if you're on day 5, say, feeding 50% of the old food, 50% of the new food, and your dog gets an upset tummy, then you can go back a day so you're now on day 4 of your pieces of cake. And this would mean that you adjust the ratios to feed 60% of the old food and 40% of the new food, and then stay at that ratio. Don't increase it each day. Stay at that ratio until your dog's digestion settles again. Once their digestion is settled and they're not having this tummy upset, then you can kind of pick up where you left off with that transition and carry on making the daily incremental changes to increase the amount of new food and decrease the amount of the old food. If they were to have that digestive upset again in a few days' time, then again drop back a day to the yesterday's food proportions, stick with that until their digestion settles, and then carry on. Some dogs do have very sensitive digestion, and so it's a good way that if you're noticing any digestive upset, doesn't have to be, full blown discomfort. If you just notice that something doesn't look quite as it should be, or you think that it's not going very well, it's not suiting them, then it's good just to slow that down and give them that bit extra time to adjust. So in terms of the next troubleshooting point, let's say that your dog had a severe digestive upset whilst we were transitioning, and they needed that bland, easily digestible diet, either like a veterinary digestion diet, or you've been cooking, for instance, chicken and rice for them. And each time that you're trying to go back to their regular food and continue the transition, it happens again. There are a couple of things I would think about here. So firstly, do they get this kind of more severe digestive upset if you move them just back onto their old food? It could be that your dog is particularly sensitive and that maybe their old food is a very different recipe or type of food from the new food. It might be that their new food just isn't suiting them well, especially if you're finding these issues further into the transition when they're eating a larger proportion of the new food. If that's the case, and it's the new, you're finding that maybe it's the new food, you could try transitioning to something a little bit different, just to see. It might be that the food that you've chosen as the new food just isn't a good match for your dog, and so that's why they're kind of struggling to cope or to digest it properly and getting this recurring tummy upset. So if that is the case, then maybe look at something more similar to the food that they were doing well on. Or if this is a recurring thing with every food, then do feel free to reach out, and I'd be happy to take a look at any kind of individual cases in more depth. So for the third thing for our troubleshooting today, let's say you're doing your dog food transition, but your dog doesn't want to eat the food. So this might be an indication that your dog doesn't like the food that you're changing them to. It could just be because the food is different. Maybe your dog's quite wary of change. Sometimes we know that the food that we're feeding is maybe less palatable than the other one, but we're making a switch to, I don't know, a veterinary diet, or there's a particular reason, whether it be a health reason or something else, that this is the best option for your dog. So there are options that you could look to improve the palatability of the food that you're switching them to. So maybe you can add some of a dog drink or a dog gravy to that food. You can make your own. So think about kind of simmering something like chicken or liver, something like that, in water, and then adding that water to your dog's food. Actions like that tend to make the food more palatable by adding that not only the liquid, which is good for hydrating your dog, but the flavors and the aromas, which are kind of connected to those ingredients that you've been simmering in the water, tend to grab their attention well. You can always try things as well, like warming the food up slightly so it's not cold, just releases a few more of those aromas. And yes, again, it might be that the new food isn't the best choice for your dog, but it's hard to say for certain until they've fully transitioned. So sometimes encouraging them to eat it during the transition means that you can just rule out issues of them just being wary because it's different, when this could be a better choice for them. So yeah, try and kind of persevere and encourage them to eat the new food by in kind of boosting the palatability of that food, and see how they get on as the transition continues. There are other options for boosting palatability, but it kind of depends upon the format of food which you're feeding. So if you need any more tips and things like that, then do just send me a message. Okay, so before I carry on, I just want to take the opportunity to answer a few questions which I have been asked about what's the best diet for my dog live webinar, and how this could affect individuals. So I hope that this helps to provide those answers. So somebody has asked and said that they don't want to keep changing their dog's food, and will this mean that they just need to change their dog's food more? So it's understandable. I completely appreciate that it's a pain having to keep changing your dog's food and not knowing whether the new food that you feed is going to work for them. It's whether it's going to be suitable and they're going to thrive on it, or if it's going to be something else which just doesn't work and is a waste. So the point of the webinar is that we want to find a food which suits our dogs, not to send forever in searching and switching between different foods and looking for that elusive food which will suit them. So that's why I'll teach you how to identify what your dog needs from their food, so that you can find the best option for them and not having to keep switching and changing their foods all of the time, trying to find that food which will work. Another question is, can't my vet explain dog nutrition to me? So yes, many vets can explain nutrition to you. Nutritional knowledge between different vets and veterinary practices does vary. So some vets might be more able and knowledgeable in nutrition to share that knowledge with you than others. The main issue, however, tends to be that usually when you visit your vets, they don't have very much time to dedicate to talking about nutrition and food. Their short consultation times tends to require so many different elements of getting information about different aspects of your dog's health, taking a kind of history, an examination, and yeah, can include other things like immunizations or examinations of particular health concerns. So that means that there's tends to not be very much time in order to talk about food and nutrition in detail. And often you'd need to find a specific time to just go and speak about nutrition. So yeah, and as I've kind of shown, there's a lot to talk about when it comes to dog nutrition, and having time to work through it in detail and in relation to you and your dog specifically, it's important. And it's important for you to understand not only what the recommendations are, but why. So in conclusion, yes, many vets can help you with nutrition, but it tends to be that their time to talk about food and nutrition can be quite limited, and that's why I'm here to help and support you with this area, separately to having to go to a veterinary practice to discuss it. Another question which I have to answer is, why do I need to know about my dog's food? So many owners do want to know and want to understand more about their dog's food. That way they can decipher what's in their food, and they can make good choices about their dog's nutrition, rather than the whole area of dog food just being a complete mystery and people not really knowing what's marketing and what is kind of good quality nutrition that their dog needs. And finally, I've been asked, are you independent? I am. I'm not going to be recommending particular foods or brands or pushing you onto a raw or a homemade diet. That's not what I'm about. I'm not here to sell expensive foods or tell you that spending hours on meal prep is the only possible way to feed your dog. I know that all dogs are different, and that also we humans as pet owners have different requirements when it comes to feeding our dogs too. For instance, your time, your budget, your storage constraints, many more. So we will be discussing different options and how elements of these options may suit different dogs better or worse. It will be totally independent, and that's a promise. So thank you for those questions, and if you have any other questions which you'd like me to answer, then please do let me know. There's also a opportunity to book a quick call in with me. So if you have questions or you want to know a bit more about the webinar, to know if it is what you need, then do feel free to book that call, and I will leave a link for that within the video notes for you to find. So let me tell you about what's the best diet for my dog live webinar and the opportunity. This is why I'm excited about it. So by knowing the best diet for your dog, you can make good choices about their food and feed a diet which best suits them. You'll have a healthy dog that are thriving on their food, and you can avoid the issues of things like smelly, flatulent dogs, dogs who do lots of massive poos, or regularly suffer with diarrhea or constipation. You can avoid issues like poor coat condition, dull, flaky coats, itchy skin, and what's more, rather than feeling confused or stressed, overwhelmed, like you don't know which way to turn when it comes to your dog nutrition, or feeling guilty or embarrassed about your dog being, I don't know, really smelly, or other signs that their diet isn't suiting them, you'll feel in control, feel calm and confident that the food that you feed your dog is a great choice for them. So let me demystify your dog's nutrition. Through What's the Best Diet for My Dog live webinar, you'll have the opportunity to ask your questions too. So not only will we be on this webinar together live, working through a series of topics which are important for you to have that knowledge to make those good choices about your dog food. You'll be working through a number of activities to make sure that knowledge is really understood and you can test those new skills. And you'll also have the opportunity to ask your questions. So rather than spending your precious time searching for answers on the internet and then getting conflicting answers which leave you more confused than when you started, you can join this webinar with me. We'll work through these important topics, have those skills to really cement, the activities to really cement those skills, and then I'll be there to answer your questions too. I hope that sounds good to you. We have another live workshop coming on the 21st of April, so be sure to add that to your calendar. Please do subscribe to my YouTube channel to get notifications of when I share other videos, and for this next launch workshop on Friday. And please also comment, like, and share Rewarding Pet Nutrition and What's the Best Diet for My Dog live webinar launch with your friends. You can find me on the rewardingpetnutrition.com website. Send me an email message at info@rewardingpetnutrition.com, and you can find me on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and LinkedIn. So if any of those are the places that you usually hang out, then please do look up Rewarding Pet Nutrition and drop us a message or share our videos with your dog owner or pet parent friends. We'd love to be able to help as many pet owners as we can with this live webinar of What's the Best Diet for My Dog, to improve the health of your dogs and the happiness of the humans too. So I look forward to seeing you again on Friday, and I hope that you have a great afternoon. See you then. Thank you very much for joining me. Bye.